Good afternoon, students. It's my second session for the day. Let me just confirm if my voice is audible and on students, it's my second session for the day. Then I will begin with the session. Let me just confirm if my voice is audible and on then I will Right, begin so I think I did get confirmation my voice is audible. So on that note, let me begin with the session. Right, so I think I did get confirmation my voice is audible. So on that note, let me begin with the session. Right, so I just muted this thing, the YouTube, so able to hear better now, right? So, welcome everybody to Unacademy, India's largest online learning platform. As every other day this week, I'm going to run you through today's newspaper. Right. So newspaper is our regular feature for the last, this is the sixth consecutive day that we are having this so that you are abreast with what are the important things that are happening in the world. So Unacademy is India's largest online learning platform. We are available across different study areas such as all kinds of entrance tests, management, engineering, medical, UPSC, bank PO, SSC. We are present in all of these and also into school studies. Right. This is a brief profile of myself. My name is Aritro Dasgupta, and I've been working with Unacademy, taking regular classes for the past 3 months. Looking into my experience and qualifications, I'm an MBA from the Indian Institute of Forest Management, which is located in Bhopal. My specialization was in the area of conservation and livelihood. Right. So since finishing my MBA, that was in 2010, I've worked for more than a decade, and I worked in the areas of teaching, training, content writing, strategy consulting, and in executive recruitment. Most of my work has taken place in India, but I've also worked in the Middle East. Some of my lectures have been shown in a university in Nigeria, and I've also been published with a trade magazine in North America. And of course, the last couple of years, I have been engaged with the coaching industry. And during this period, several highlights have taken place. So, the rank holders to several nationally recognized exams such as CAT, CLAT, and DUJAT, they have been my students during this period. Right. So, what all you will receive as part of the Unacademy program? Let me just tell you. First of all, you receive daily live classes. I'll show it to you how that works. We also have a live chat window where you can interact with us. There is you have once you enroll on unacademy.com, you can go through n number of sessions. Once you're subscribed, so it's a lot similar to say the model which is followed by say Netflix. Netflix, what it is for content and entertainment, we are the same for education, right? So once you are enrolled, you can go through n number of classes, something which is never possible in a bricks and mortar academic institution. On the other hand, there is also the matter of the course content that should be well structured, because pedagogy is true is key behind any important in any academic stream. Basically, that is why our head office in Bengaluru has taken special care to ensure that you get really good content here. Right. This is a list of some of our top educators. You may take a look at their names, or do also take a look at their number of followers and watch minutes, also their qualifications. This is just a list of a few of them. There are many more on our panel, and it's good to see. It's encouraging to see that I am also moving up the ranks as I've gone through the classes recently. I think my rank is somewhere in the 80s in the country. Not bad when there are 500 plus trainers, and not bad when I'm taking general awareness, something which a lot of people do not take that seriously at this stage. Right, this is how you receive notifications for the various live classes, and there's something called a plus. So my plus batches will also be beginning soon. You also receive notifications for batch formation. Two kinds of batches may be formed. One could be standalone batches for a single subject. Another option is an entire course, which includes all the subjects as is mentioned on top. Right. There is also a massive advantage of Unacademy. Let me just explain to you. First of all, unlike other academic institutions, we have this firm belief that language should not be a barrier. It is merely something which is an aid. So that is why even in our course we are present in 16 different languages. You may learn anytime, anywhere, because we have a, even if you miss a live class, you may always look at the, shall we say, the recordings of the same. Right, you may interact with your educator anytime to get your doubts solved. And of course, you may answer live polls as well. So, live polls, there can be two methods. One is on the right hand side of your YouTube. There is this live chat window. So, you may interact with us here. Or we can also have the method where you can also. We also have it through unacademy.com. So, do follow us on unacademy.com. The live polls happen very smoothly there as well. Right, there are live tests and quizzes which include the entire syllabus, so you actually know where you stand versus the rest of the country. Once you are done with the test, you also receive a detailed report and analysis of the same. You can also download PDFs for the session. So today morning I took quite a detailed session on geography, तो उसमें definitely आपको PDF उसका डाउनलोड करना ज़रूरी है. वो सेशन मैं बाद में करवाऊंगा unacademy.com में. तो काफ़ी आसान हो जाएगा उसमें डाउनलोड करना. अदरवाइज जो लर्निंग मटेरियल है दैट इज़ नॉट सो, shall we say, in today's class it is less relevant, because today I'm going to basically do it via the newspaper. So newspaper itself becomes your PDF. Right, I would say this is probably the most important of all slides. Just go through this. My code is mentioned at the bottom, AD09. So I would recommend all of you go through around 30 seconds to a minute, read everything. Both sides are the same. So then I'll talk to you about it. Just read all the combinations, so then you know what kind of a package to really go for. Right. I trust you've all gone through this. You will clearly understand that the long term course you take, the more beneficial it is for you guys. So I would say all of you go for minimum the 12-month course, or go for 24 months, but not below 12 months, because bang per buck, if I may use such a term, or The efficiency, value for money is much more in the longer term courses. Right. So on that note, let me fetch today's newspaper and then I will begin with the actual content of today's class. You might need to excuse me once or twice, because the weather is pretty strange. So that's why I might just have to go up to switch off the AC once or twice. I don't have a remote. Right, so let's begin then the session. And this is the newspaper. As usual, we are starting with your favorite newspaper for entrance exams, that is The Hindu. So let's just do an analysis of the same. Right. The first topic, which I think is of great importance to everyone, concerns GST and the taxes. And for you students, many of you might be from economics or commerce background, so I think many of you will understand these topics particularly well. We have been speaking for a while now about how the GST dues are remaining for the different states. So several states in India, such as especially those which are the non-BJP ruled states, they have been protesting against the dues which they were supposed to receive. So among the states which have the highest lag, that is Maharashtra, even the likes of Punjab, Kerala, and West Bengal were Delhi and several other states were looking at this thing in a very serious manner. In fact, West Bengal and Kerala had even thought of moving the Supreme Court, but now all does seem to be well. So the Supreme Court, the Finance Ministry of the country had been suggesting for a while that these states could borrow from the RBI or from international organizations. Now, these states, their thing is that they are okay to do that. However, the rate of interest is usually higher when it reaches the states instead of via the center. So that is why now this impasse seems to have been resolved to quite an extent. The finance ministry has offered to procure these loans on its own and then disburse them to the respective states. This will help the states go through its source crunch or fund crunch, which is right now taking place. Right, so there's overall 1.51 lakh crore worth of GST, which is pending in various ways. So 21 states and UTs have exceeded to the proposals, but some of the others they still need to confirm their views on this. So this loan will be taken up either from the RBI or from international supranational banks such as the World Bank, the ADB, the NDB, or the AIIB. One of these two options is pretty likely. Right, there is a little bit more detailed report, among the internal pages, but right now this should be enough. There is news from Jammu and Kashmir, where I think you guys are all aware that recently Miss Mehbooba Mufti, she was released from her house imprisonment. She had been imprisoned for on a preventive detention rather for 14 months. Initially, she was lodged in two sub jails, but later she was transferred to her residence, which was then converted into a sub jail. What was the reason? That is because of August 5th last year, when Article 370 was abrogated. So, a couple of important local leaders of Jammu and Kashmir, they had been put on preventive detention because there were fears of wide-scale protests and maybe rioting in the state. So that is why this decision was taken. She was the last of the major leaders to be released. and she immediately met the Abdullah family, which runs the rival local political party, which is the NC, or the National Conference. Mehbooba Mufti, of course, was the existing Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, and she heads the political party, the PDP, or the People's Democratic Party. So she met the Abdullahs, the father of Farooq Abdullah and his son Omar Abdullah. Both have been both have been chief ministers and union ministers as well at the center. They both reiterated, in fact, all three of them and some of the other smaller parties as well. They have decided to abide by what is called the Gupkar Declaration or Gupkar Agreement. Gupkar is a particular area within Srinagar where is the residence of the Abdullahs. So several of the parties, some local, some national, had signed this. This was basically a pledge for Article 370 to remain to remain in place, and the special status of Jammu and Kashmir, as per this agreement, should remain in place. What are those political parties? Let's take a look. One is, of course, the National Conference, headed by the Abdullahs. There is also the PDP, headed by Ms. Mehbooba Mufti. There's the PCJK, Jammu and Kashmir People's Conference, headed by Mr. Sajjad Lone, who was actually a BJP ally in the last Lok Sabha elections. They fought the election, they contested the elections together on a seat sharing basis. And there's also the CPIM, which is a national party, of course, headed by Mr. M.Y. Tarigami. There are a couple of smaller parties, the Awami National Conference, the JNK People's Movement, the PDF, or the People's Democratic Front. The eighth party was the Indian National Congress. The Congress has right now stayed away from it. In fact, the local Congress head, Mr. G. A. Mir, he stayed away from this particular meet because of, as he cited, health reasons. There has been an affidavit filed recently, a plea filed requesting the Supreme Court to oversee the CBI investigation in the Hathras tragedy, the of a girl, rape and murder of a girl in Uttar Pradesh's Hathras district. The Supreme Court might not directly do it, but they have discussed with the High Court of Uttar Pradesh, so the High Court might be entrusted with this particular task. The BARC, meanwhile, has been a lot in the news in the last couple of months, which is the Broadcast Audience Research Council, which is the body which basically measures the TRPs, which is the target rating points. I think most of you would be aware there has been a major controversy regarding the TRPs in the last couple of days, with a couple of news channels, especially the Republic TV, which is being accused of fixing these TRPs. So, as due to this controversy, the BARC has decided that for the next 3 months, these the TRPs will not be released. The TRPs are nowadays officially known as impressions, but TRP, which is a throwback term to the earlier days, that continues to be used generally in the everyday language. The AQI, or the Air Quality Index in Delhi, remains in the very poor category. Theaters, cinema theaters have reopened in Delhi after several months. However, the response has not been much. There has been much muted response from the audience. Very few people visiting each. As it is, there is massive distancing, which means very few people can actually enter the theaters. But on top of that, very few people among the possible ones even attended this thing. And one of the reasons cited has been, of course, the fact that due to so many protocols, people are afraid of going through all of this. And of course, many people are generally afraid because of COVID-19 and the distancing norms. Apart from that, the fact is there aren't many big budget releases as yet. Those movies are waiting for the festive season to come up, such as Durga Puja and of course Diwali. That is the key period for movies to be released. So several of the star cast movies with star names they will be releasing in the near future. So the Delhi theatre owners, they are hopeful that things would improve by then. There is rather, I would say, slightly disturbing news from the state of Odisha. In Odisha's Bhubaneswar, the capital city, there is a zoo known as the Nandan Kanan Zoo, widely acclaimed for being one of the best maintained zoos in the country. The zoo has run out of funds, or rather, is struggling for funds, and due to the pandemic, they have received very less funding because gate receipts are one of the major sources of revenue. That has not taken place for about half a year now. So the zoo has put up this thing, a notice for animal adoption. Basically, people can spend a certain amount of money and adopt an animal. Adopt does not mean a tiger runs behind my class and he comes and licks me. I do not mean that, or wags a tail when he sees me. That is not what I mean. But basically, and of course, the tiger wouldn't know I'm sponsoring his stay. But yes, I will be, let's say, adopting a tiger. So I will be paying for all of that. मेरा नाम लिखा रहेगा वहाँ पे. But obviously, nothing much else, and I might get a VIP entry or something. Maybe that's it. But more importantly, the animal will be well taken care of. I think that is pretty much what is the purpose of this thing, right? It's known as the NZP, Nandan Kanan Zoo Park, Zoological Park. Right. The deputy director of the NZP, Shri Bimla Prasanna Acharya, he has mentioned about several individuals and organizations who have come forward, and they've pledged a certain amount. Around 22 lakh rupees has already been sort of mm, been attracted, but a lot more needed, usually through entry passes and, of course, outsourcing of boating and parking facilities. Every year, around 15 to 17 crore rupees is earned. There's a 50 lakh required per month for the upkeep of animals. So, massive hardship has been faced. A rough figure has been put out. 2.5 lakh per annum is enough to adopt an elephant. 1 lakh is enough for a tiger. 1.5 lakhs for a melanine tiger, a tiger which is basically has a pigmentation problem, so it's so white in color. The Asiatic lion and the Bengal tiger can be adopted by for 1 lakh rupees per annum each. So this is something maybe people can look up to. There is news regarding the elections in Bihar. Today's front page is really informative. Lots of small but big news, all of it on the front page. I don't know मैं आगे क्या बात करूँगा. I've already told you everything, right? You guys can all go home. But anyway, that's not the purpose. In the state of Bihar, as you all know, the elections are due shortly. Not much remains. I think barely, what, 12 days remains. 28th March is the 28th October is the first. Phase of the elections. So there are three stages: 28th October, 3rd November, and 7th November. 10th November, the results will be declared. So for the Bihar elections, the Grand Alliance, or the Mahagathbandhan, which is the premier opposition, they have already released a list of their candidates for almost all the 243 seats. Congress has finalized all the 70 seats where it is contesting on. The left parties have released most of them. So has the RJD. You're probably aware there are total 243 seats in the state of Bihar. RJD is contesting on around 145 of them. The Congress on 70 seats, and the CPI-ML on 18 seats. The CPI on 6 and CPIM on 4. The Jharkhand Mukti Morcha will also be contesting on the first few seats, but not under its own banner. Most likely a few people, but they'll be on the banner of the Congress or the RJD. That's what it appears right now. So some of the important names have been released. Shatrughan Sinha, legendary actor and also former minister in the Vajpayee government, multiple times an MP. His son, Love Sinha, will be contesting from the Bankipur constituency, which lies within Patna. While Suhasini Raj Rao, she's the daughter of Sharad Yadav, a JDU rebel who's formed his own party, the LJD, or the Loktantrik Janata Dal. He will be contesting on Biharganj, which is part of the Madhepura constituency, a constituency where her father has been an MP 4 times. Also, Chandan Yadav will contest from Beldor, M.A. Osmani from Jale, Ajit Sharma from Bhagalpur, Kali Pandey, who's also just shifted from the LJP, from Kuchai Court and Amitabh Bhushan from Begusarai. These are some of those who have been decided, some of the big names. And there was some report of some discord. I think that always happens before any election because obviously anybody would like to get a ticket from any of these major parties to contest. So there was some of hand wringing, but ultimately the Congress has been the first to release its entire list of contestants. Right. Moving further ahead, let me move to some of the local pages. I've already told you about the AQI. The Chief Minister of Delhi, Shri Arvind Kejriwal, has launched a campaign to tackle rising levels of air pollution. It's known as red light on, gadi off. Red light on, gadi off. Uh, the idea being to have few other things. He's also spoken about how farmers have been worst hit due to the pollution. The ruling AAP, which rules Delhi, versus the BJP, which is in power at the center, and several other states, they are actually sparring over what is the main contribution to of pollution. The Delhi government claims that it is the stubble burning, which is the biggest reason, or at least one of the biggest reasons, and that is why it blames the central government for not doing enough related to neighboring states like Haryana, UP, and Punjab. On the other hand, the BJP, in fact, specifically the Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar, he has stated in an official report that farm fires are responsible for a mere 4% of all the pollution which is in Delhi. So that is something where they are being unable to agree upon. I've been telling you last couple of days about the mind-boggling cutoffs released by the Delhi University. Another university in Delhi, this is a state government university, the AUD, which stands for the Ambedkar University, Delhi. They have, in fact, told the students they can upload the papers till October 17th. Their cutoffs have also been released. For BA Psychology, for instance, it is pretty high, remains at 99%. Uh, but this is for people who are from outside Delhi. This being a state government university, unlike the DU, which is national government university, they can actually have a state quota. So there's a 97% cutoff for people of Delhi for the same subjects. Likewise, for sociology, it's 98.5%, but 96.5 for Delhi students, and so on and so forth for all the other subjects as well. Social sciences and humanities, um, economics, mathematics, most of them have a pretty similar this thing, but there will also be, mostly it's a 1.5 to 2% reduction for Delhi candidates. Right, the DPCC, which is the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, in order to further work on pollution control, air pollution control, they have imposed a 10,000 rupee fine on 10 people. So 10,000 each. Each of them will pay 10,000. That is because of farm fires. They had put farm waste on fires. This is in Delhi itself, because there are some farms in rural area in Delhi as well. A new sports complex has been unveiled in Delhi, which is the Nakshatra Vatika. This is on the occasion of former Delhi Chief Minister Sri Madan Lal Khurana, his birth anniversary. It was inaugurated by the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party. And among the people who were present there, one was the Minister of State for Finance and Corporate Affairs, Sri Anurag Thakur, also the Delhi BJP President, Mr. Adesh Gupta, and also Lok Sabha MP, Ms. Meenakshi Lekhi. Right. I told you earlier about the theater opening not being good enough. In fact, the CEO of PVR Cinemas, Mr. Gautam Datta, he has spoken about the many attractive offers which several theater owners have put up, such as at the PVR Plaza in Connaught Place. The ticket price is just rupees 99. It's a flat rate. So he says we are pleased to be back and we are following all the standard operating procedures laid down by the MHA or the Ministry of Home Affairs. There's also a staffer at the Inox Eros 1 in Jangpura. He has spoken about the
the different designated bins for masks, gloves, etc., and about contactless sanitizer dispensers.
And 3D glasses, everything being so well managed.
Uh, the central government in the Delhi House, they have mentioned that the state government of Delhi, which is probing the riots case, and of course the issue of Facebook and what role Facebook played in the Delhi riots earlier this year. So the center says the Delhi House has no right to probe on this. They have no power to probe this thing and to call the FB official. Even if they're probing, that's okay, but you cannot summon somebody. One is not bound to attend the summons. There is also some election news from the northeast of the country. There's a lot of elections gonna come up in the upcoming days. I'll just get some water for myself. Just excuse me for a moment, please. Right. Yeah, as I was telling you, some more of the election issues coming up. So the state of Assam in the northeast of India is also said to have some sort of elections, not the main election, not the state election that will take place next year. But right now, what is happening is some of the tribal councils are said to have elections. Now, what exactly is a tribal council? There are certain tribal areas in the country where there is some form of autonomy. And in the northeast, the autonomy or semi independence is much more. And that is why these tribal councils, they have their own elections as well. So I think we had earlier discussed, and I had told you about the Bodo land case. Bodos are a community in Assam, through much of Assam. So Bodo land, there had long been an agitation for a separate state. That has to a large extent been doused now, thanks to thanks to the Bodo Accord, which was signed earlier this year, I think in January or February, and that has pretty much confirmed that. Bodoland now has a separate council which is semi-autonomous, the Bodoland Territorial Council. Not yet the Schedule 6 status, but they are getting a lot of the other benefits. So one of the BJP is in power in Assam in a coalition with two local parties. One is the Assam Gana Parishad and the other is the BPF, or the Bodoland People's Front. The BPF, however, is not happy about the Bodo Accord, because the central government had actually negotiated with some of the units of the Bodos, which the BPF was not friendly with. So they are not happy with the decision, and so the BPF has been flexing its muscles for a while, and there is much talk of a rift within the NDA in Assam. In this case, right? The AGP as well has shown discomfort in some ways. The BJP is now confident that, although they are repeatedly stating, its very senior minister Shri Himanta Biswa Sharma, he has confirmed that the party wishes to have long-term good relations with
the BPF and the AGP. However, if needed, the 40 seats in the Bodoland Council, Territorial Council, or the BTC, the BJP is prepared to fight all 40 of them on its own separately. There are also the autonomous councils of Karbi Anglong and Dima Hasao, where elections will be due. Such similar tribal council elections. The state of Punjab is set to resume its OPD services or outpatient department services, which had been suspended for some time. The Chief Minister of the state, Captain Amrinder Singh, however, has reiterated that there need not be any complacency in the state. Further rains, I think I told you yesterday about the retreating monsoon in Maharashtra and the massive amount of destruction it is causing. So now heavy rains have, yesterday's toll claimed 27 lives in the districts of Solapur, Sangli, and Pune. So the Chief Minister has asked the state administration, also the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to be on high alert in case anything is needed. 20,000, more than 20,000 people have already been evacuated. The Kolhapur district has been amongst the worst hit in this. I'm moving into the editorial page. So there is a very serious debate on the Hindu regarding whether government must regulate the TRPs that we've been talking about, the target rating points. So there are two sides of the picture. One is represented by the former Chief Election Commissioner, Mr. S.Y. Qureshi. He's also the former Director General of Doordarshan. The other is Mr. Shashi Kumar. He's the founder and editor in chief of Asiaville, which is a digital multimedia platform. He was also the founder of the Asianet television channel. In another article which says Bollywood's moment of rating of reckoning, which says that the industry has shown a united front because its interests are being compromised. This article written by Mr. Kunal Ray, who teaches literary and cultural studies at the Flame University in Pune. So he has spoken about how Bollywood or the Hindi film industry has seen for several months constant attack by a couple of television channels, especially the Republic TV and the Times Now. For long, Bollywood remained quiet, but now Bollywood has come together, probably because its common interests are being targeted, and probably also because the last couple of months revenues have not gone well, the with cinema theaters closed, and of course so many movies releasing on ott platforms gaining ground anyway thanks to the massive success of the web series. So there is fear that the film industry might be losing ground. So probably not, because all these people are coming together, and of course OTTs, ultimately it is many of the Bollywood actors themselves and producers who play a massive role. So again, it's probably not a very big this thing. So all of this started with the death of Sushant Singh Rajput, and how after that there was perhaps rightly a condemnation of the fact that Sushant Singh Rajput, not being a star son, did not have somebody to discuss, did not have a shoulder to cry on. He did not have a godfather, unlike a lot of those who are star kids who do much better. So that is why this did receive a lot of attention. But from there, there was a sort of witch hunt which happened on Bollywood, which deflected attention from other very important events such as the COVID-19 pandemic, the citizenship debate, the rights of migrant laborers, women's safety, caste violence. So all of this probably got distracted because of all this Bollywood talk. And after the after the Ames report, which which confirmed it was a suicide, even after that they sort of moved towards a different direction, which spoke about drugs and the certain lifestyle which certain actresses lead to. And funnily, all those people who were being targeted were all women. So that is something, this media trial is something which really hurt Bollywood, and which is why Bollywood came out with all guns blazing suite. Finally, all of Bollywood with huge names, biggest names, and the biggest of the production houses, they all came together to fight this. So that is kudos, they've finally come together. Right, moving on. So there are lots of protests going on in Thailand as well due to the curbing of democratic rights in the country. There's an article by Mr. Shyam Saran, who's a former foreign secretary and also a senior fellow at the Center for Policy Research. He speaks about the message, which is underlying message in the Nobel Peace Prize this year, which is around multilateralism. He speaks about how the United Nations World Food Program won the prize this year. Um, but also about how it is multilateralism, the cooperation between many countries and several stakeholders together, which actually worked in its favor. Um, on average, hundreds of millions of people every year are taken care of by the World Food Program. Many more are still not taken care of. There are more than 600 million people worldwide, almost 700 million who starve every day and night, who go to sleep, if at all, on empty stomachs. So this number could be reduced significantly. It's not that the WFP is or the World Food Program is inefficient, not at all. Instead, the fact is it is perennially underfunded. So greater amount of funding is needed. Countries need to be aware that the 690 million people who are on empty stomachs, something has to be done systematically to ensure it doesn't increase. But the COVID-19 pandemics, a recent report by the World Food Program identified that another around 130 million plus people could this year be added to the list of the 690 million. So this year we are staring at a staggering 800 million plus people who will not have two square meals a day. So United Nations this year turns 75, remains as relevant as ever. And of course, as children of planet Earth, all humans need to work together. That's the idea. This is something which has been reiterated by our Prime Minister as well. And so India will take the right steps to work on this. In fact, zero hunger is actually the target number two within the SDGs or the Sustainable Development Goals, which are a set of 17 goals founded in 2015 to replace the earlier MDGs or Millennium Development Goals. So by 2030, there is a target that these 17 goals will be met. Among them, number two is zero hunger. And as per all reports, we are nowhere close to meeting that. Even though global food production has increased over the past few decades massively, but there is a lot of wastage, there's a lot of inefficiency, not enough cold storages, which means that food cannot be transported at the right place at the right time. Plus there are so many conflicts worldwide that it's just not possible. Sometimes it's not just about food production but other safety and security issues which prevent food from being transported or produced or procured from any particular place. So globalization is here to stay. Globalization is being attacked a lot by several people, but this writer feels that globalization is the reason why the world hunger crisis has been reduced to whatever extent. So India's farmers also need greater protection and proper strategies. However, greater production of food, grains should not be at the cost of destroying the environment. It should not mean merely increasing the insecticides, pesticides, and fertilizers. All of these are chemicals which end up hurting the soil in the long run and especially affect the small farmers. So pandemic was the best way to take stock. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have done too well. But that's his message that let us now prepare so that another future pandemic, in case there is one, and therefore probably will be one, there we do not need such a debilitating problem. The session has not ended. Please do not leave. कुछ लोग खुश हो गए ड्रैगन देखकर कि सेशन खत्म हो रहा है, but that is not the case. So there is in fact another article today on zero food hunger. This is written by three people. Mr. Tomio Shichiri, who's the Food and Agricultural Organization representative in India. There's also Rasha Omar, who's the country director of IFAD in India. IFAD stands for International for the Food and Agricultural for the International Fund for Agricultural Development. And also Mr. Bisho Parajuli, who's the representative and country director of the World Food Program in India. The three of them together have reiterated a lot of the points which the other writer has also spoken of in the other article.
and they are talking about the goal number 2 of the SDGs. In addition, they've added that how malnourishment and malnutrition are related. While we have reduced malnutrition, malnourishment and anemia continue to be a massive thing. There are about 40 million children in India who are chronically malnourished, and about half the women in India between the ages of 15 to 49 are anemic, which means iron and protein deficiency. Uh, so in fact, around 86% farmers in India have less than 2 hectares of land, contributing 60% of the total food grain, about half the country's fruits and vegetables. This basically points to two undeniable imperatives, which is the way we produce food through agroecology and sustainable production process in agriculture and allied sectors. And also the second, we must stop the waste. One third of food we produce is wasted. So these three organizations, the FAO, the IFAD, and the WFP, need to work together. These three agencies. If I'm not wrong, I think IFAD is a World Bank body. No, it's a UN body that has been confirmed.
Right, right. Fair enough. I am done with the editorials. Let me move further. I told you about the terrible rains
In the south, in Telangana and Andhra, there is this heart-touching story about a woman in Telangana who actually gave birth to a child on the flood banks. The states in South India are seeing a fresh spurt of COVID-19 cases. Karnataka, for instance, yesterday saw over 8,000 cases and 85 deaths, while Kerala saw nearly 8,000 cases at 7,789 to be precise.
There are a couple of really important people who passed away yesterday, tragically. So, one of them is a former Gyanpith Award winner, Malayalam poet. His name is uh, Akhitam Achutan Nampudri. I think he's best known with his last name, Shri Nampudri. At a pretty, he was born in 1926 in the Palakkad district. He started writing very early on, but the awards were a bit late to come by. 2017, he got the Padma Shri. Also won a important state award in 2008, and he was also the oldest ever winner of the Gyanpith Award. Also passing away is the first ever Indian who won the Oscar Prize. Her name is Srimati Bhanu Athaiya. She won the Oscar in 1983 for the film Gandhi. She's now 91 years old. She was the costume designer for which she won the prize in the Ben Kingsley starring movie. Right, there's news from the Apollo group of hospitals. They are planning 1 million shots every day of the vaccine once the vaccine does arrive for COVID-19. They have 10,000 employees all over the country. So these 10,000 employees will administer vaccine for the whole country. They're confident that if they are given the contract for the whole country, they will do justice to the same. Yeah, as I told you, the Mahagarbandhan has released its a joint candidate list for all the Bihar seats. So the five parties, the Congress, the RJD, the CPI, CPIM, and the CPIML, they all held a joint conference together to announce their list of candidates. It was headed by this meet was headed by the RJD leader Sri Manoj Jha. Some of you might remember he was a candidate of the joint opposition at the center to be the deputy chairperson of the Rajya Sabha as well. The Foreign Minister of India, Sri Jaishankar, has confirmed that the talks with China are progressing, although it is still a work in progress because things are uh, moving pretty slowly. Several opposition ruled states they are planning to have a set of laws which will circumvent the new farm acts, and thus that they feel that this will protect MSP since they fear that the new laws they do not They will not have the MSP will not be there. So a couple of protests were held in Delhi among an umbrella organization representing around 180 farmer organizations in the country. I told you a few months back about a spurious liquor case in Punjab which killed about 100 people. Something similar has now befallen the state of Madhya Pradesh as well. In the city of Ujjain, 14 people have died after consuming this spurious alcohol. There's a new movement which has been launched by the Union Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan. It says Eat Right movement, which focuses on eating the right nutritional uh, products, and that includes a lot of fresh water, a lot of water. So that's why I do keep having water. You must have noticed in my classes because obviously my subject requires a lot of speaking. I mean, no offense to other subjects, but in some of the other subjects, you can actually teach and then give them exercises. I also can do, and I do that as well. However, there is a bit more of speaking element which is there in teaching general awareness. The Cultural Ministry of the center has released issues and guidelines for stage performances and artists, and over 100 people are now allowed as in terms of gatherings, but only in safe zones, not in the containment zones. There had been talk that maybe sleeper coaches will now be discarded, and there will only be AC trains besides the general compartment ones. But that rumor has been shot down. The chairperson and the CEO of the railway board, Shri VK Yadav, has confirmed that there will the plans to do away with sleeper there is no plan to do away with sleeper class coaches and to replace them with air conditioned coaches. That is not the case. Both will run together. The Prime Minister of India, Sri Narendra Modi, wants scaling up of zero surveys, that there should be more testing done. There's a very interesting point made by the Supreme Court of India. In fact, this has personally been authored by the Chief Justice of India, Sri Arvind Bobde, and Sri Sharad Arvind Bobde. So he has, in fact, written to the center on how legal writing in English should be changed to plain English, rather than the complex English which is usually associated with legal writing. So it's a bench which is led by the Chief Justice of India. There was a petition filed by Mr. Subhash Vijayaran, who wants a new course on study in law colleges called Legal Writing in Plain English. So I really hope that works well. I had earlier discussed with you about the Gunjan Saxena film and how so it continues that raging controversy. The government and the Indian Air Force want certain scenes to be deleted because they are an eyewash and they distort the real facts. Sri Lanka has been one country in South Asia which has been known to have had enormous success when it comes to combating the COVID-19 virus. However, the country, and in fact, the country even conducted an election based on that. But now Sri Lanka faces a big test on its virus response. They have seen 2,000 new cases in the last 10 days. So the army has suddenly been drawn in to look at to do an extensive contact tracing exercise. A media mogul, Mr. Jimmy Lai, his office has been raided in Hong Kong because he is considered one of those pro democracy members in Hong Kong, the anti China lobby. In Kyrgyzstan, the president, Mr. Soronbay Jinbekov, there was a lot of protests, very similar to those experiencing in Belarus on the other side of the ex-Soviet Union. So more than 1,200 people were recently injured during clashes. So as a result, he has stepped down to end the post-election crisis. He has resigned. He's offered his resignation. In Iran, there has been a war going on for several years between the Houthi rebels, who are probably being backed by Iran, versus the Saudi led government. So, these two groups, which have been fighting this war, they have now started a prisoner exchange. Yeah, this is a first step towards a permanent ceasefire. So there is a US warship on the Taiwan Strait that has enraged China. I think Taiwan has been a lot in the news lately for such such anti-Taiwan rhetoric. As I told you, in Taiwan there have been a lot of protests. Ban has been imposed on these kind of protests, but they at this point continue to rage on. In Kyrgyzstan, the president, Mr. Soronbay Jindikov, there were a lot of protests, very similar to those experiencing in. Right, moving on to your favorite page, which is the business page. There's the latest government stimulus, which has been put in. As per Moody's, which is one of the world's largest credit rating agencies, Moody's says that this large stimulus will only have a minimal growth impact, and more is needed. In fact, small scale a credit negative. That is what the Moody's feels. So in fact, measures taken so far will cost 1.2% of the GDP. Peer nations are spending around 2.5% of their GDP. That's as per the Moody's. The Sensex, or the Bombay Stock Exchange, was having a 10-day rally, but it has now slumped after 10 good days. Yesterday, it saw a 2.6% slump. Some of the reasons were because of the US stimulus, which is now fading. It's been a long time. Also, the fresh lockdowns in Europe, such as in Czech Republic, that has been one of the reasons. Do you guys know the meaning of this word? Let me just write down one word. Let me see if you know the meaning of this word, and I will take it ahead from here. I give you a minute. Please tell me what is the meaning of this word. As for Moody's, which is one of the world's largest credit rating agencies, Moody's says that this large stimulus will only have a minimal growth impact, and more is needed. Let's see if you can tell me this thing on remittances, because there's a very important story on the same which I need to discuss with you guys. Right. So, what are remittances? Let me explain this to you. Remittances are payments which are made by domestic nationals residing foreign countries, uh, typically from developing countries and staying in developed countries, taking advantage of the currency conversion. So, lot of Indians stay abroad. Um, and actually, the Middle East is the largest contributor because people staying in the Middle East, a lot of them tend to be single men or married men living on their own. Also, you will never get citizenship, so there is no point of keeping your family for a long time, kids growing up, although many people do that, but it's relatively less common than say in the US or the UK or Canada or Australia, these kind of countries, the English speaking countries. So India is in fact the world's largest earner in terms of remittances. Last year India earned a whopping $70 billion. That is just fascinating an amount. Kerala is the largest earner in terms of remittances. However, this year remittances obviously have fallen down because one, in global income has reduced. Secondly, a lot of Indians have actually come back to the various flights such as the Vande Bharat. The United Arab Emirates is the largest contributor to remittances in India, and Kerala is the largest recipient. Exports from India were on a 6 month fall, but this month of September finally saw a turnaround. So there was a 6% uh, increase in exports after 6 months of constant reduction. The insurance regulatory, which is the IRDAI, Insurance Regulatory and Development Authority of India, they have unveiled a standard life insurance cover, term life cover known as the Saral Jeevan Bima. The Saral Jeevan Bima. And actually, the Middle East is largely, a lot of them tend to be single men or married men living on their, right? The Saral Jeevan Bima. Now, there is this discussion with Mr. Ashish Saxena, who's the Chief Operating Officer of BookMyShow.com, which is obviously one of the leading mobile phone apps for booking shows, not just films, but also theater and several other functions, in sports events, etc. So, he and his team have confirmed that while many movies have been released on OTT platforms during this lockdown, that is not something that will stay forever. Yes, a lot of movies will continue to be released on OTT platforms, but that will not be the end of theaters. Theaters will continue to rule the roost and will have their own market, as will OTT platforms, as will television. In fact, many movies have also been known to have television premiered. So, in fact, his team has spoken to around 4,000 active transactors, and more than half of them have responded positively to the fact that they would like to rejoin theaters, would like to visit them again. Maybe not immediately, but over the next 3 months, most of them would like to go. In fact, almost around 98% people have confirmed that within the next 90 days they would like to visit, provided strict measures of hygiene are being followed. They'll actually survey from their friends who have visited. There's a company called a Rane Brake Lining Limited. They are going to go for a 22 crore rupee buyback of shares. Buyback is when shares have been issued, but the company wants to buy back its revenue. So usually they go after institutional buyers rather than individuals, because chasing millions or thousands of individuals is obviously more difficult. Rather connect with some very big organization which has a number of these shares. Right. The IFF, which is the Internet Freedom Foundation, they have questioned India's move to seek encryption access. So that is why this is something which has come under the radar. Mindtree, meanwhile, their quarter two net has risen 88%. That is a substantial improvement to 253.7 crore rupees. Meanwhile, the LVB, or the Lakshmi Vilas Bank, which is one of the key lenders in the private segment, they are set to raise 500 crore rupee through a fresh rights issue, and also an allotment of equity shares. The National Authority for Ships, which is actually the DGS, or the Director General of Shipping, um has spoken about the recycling of ships. So the ship recycling industry will get a massive boost after this. The health and safety norms of the workers will have to be looked in. Ship recycling or is actually a health hazard, because obviously these steel and all that needs to be cut through. That is a time consuming and also very tough task. Jaguar Land Rover, one of the price assets of the Tata Motors group, they have meanwhile introduced a new Land Rover Defender variety car, which is valued at 73.98 lakh rupees, which is ex showroom price for all of India, and also a 110 version, which is starting at 79.94 lakh rupees, as confirmed by Mr. Rohit Suri, who's the president and managing director of JLR India. The Rights Group, meanwhile, has acquired 24% stake in the IRSDC, which stands for Indian Railway Stations Development Corporation. It is a fresh 48 crore rupee infusion in this. MD and CEO of ISRDC, Shri S.K. Loya, has confirmed this, and they are welcoming Rights' superior consulting impact. Right, finally, on to my favorite page, which is the sports page. Tonight, the Kolkata Knight Riders will be playing the Mumbai Indians. Uh, so that should be quite an interesting game. The Delhi Capitals are right now on top. The Royal Challengers of Bangalore, they've been struggling last few years, but they doing well this year. Finally, they lost last night to the Kings 11 Punjab. The Royal Challengers scoring a pretty respectable 171, with Virat Kohli scoring a 48 and Shivam Dubey scoring 23. Mm, Not much from AB de Villiers this time, but Chris Morris getting an unbeaten 25. Uh, in the bowling department, not much to write about, not much of success, except from M. Ashwin, who picked up a 2 for 23. The Kings 11 Punjab, in response, uh, did chase the entire target. With batting from KL Rahul, the overall top scorer so far, he made an unbeaten 61. Mayank Agarwal, his opening partner, too did well at 45. Chris Gayle finally made his debut this season with a 53. Nicholas Puran scored only a 6, but overall, but that 6 was in one ball, because they had to get one run off one ball. He instead smashed a 6, and he remained not out on that. Bowling wasn't bad, especially the openers, Morris and Saini, doing pretty well for the RCB, but some of the others got hit all over the park pretty badly. Right? Range hitting is something which is a lot in vogue this time. In one of the badminton tournaments, the Denmark Open, Kadambi Shrikant has reached the quarterfinal, although Lakshya Sen has been knocked out. Joshna Chinnappa, India star squash player, has lost at the quarterfinal stage of the Egyptian Open in squash. Famous sports commentator Shri Kishore Bhimani, he has passed away. He was a very important writer for the Statesman newspaper, which is still a leading newspaper from Kolkata. Very good writings they have. A lot of news from the world of football yesterday, because there was the Nations League matches, and I'll read out to you all these results which emerged yesterday. So basically, Poland won 3-0 against Bosnia. Perhaps not a surprise. Robert Lewandowski scoring two of the goals for Poland. Italy could only draw 1-1 with the Netherlands. Lorenzo Pellegrini scoring the only goal for Italy, while Manchester United's Donny van de Beek responding with the goal for the Dutch. I told you how Harry Maguire was sent off, got a red card for England against Denmark, for whom Christian Eriksen scored from the resulting penalty. Iceland lost at home to Belgium, for whom Romelu Lukaku scored a double, including one from the penalty spot. In the third group, Croatia lost at home to France with a goal each from Antoine Griezmann and Kylian Mbappe. Portugal were missing Cristiano Ronaldo, who was out due to COVID-19, but they won 3-0 with goals from Bernardo Silva scoring one goal, Liverpool's Diogo Jota scoring a double. In the second divisions, Group 1, Norway beat Northern Ireland 1-0, while Romania lost at home to Austria, again 1-0. Scotland, thanks to goal from Newcastle's new signing, Ryan Fraser, put one past the Czech Republic. They won that game. Slovakia, in spite of taking an early lead, including a goal from Napoli legend Marek Hamšík, actually lost 2-3 to Israel, for whom Zahavi scored a late hat trick, a second half hat trick, to seal an improbable victory. Turkey drew 2-all with Serbia with goals from Ozan Tufan and Hakan AC Milan's Hakan Çalhanoğlu. For Serbia, Sergei Milinkovic Savic scored their first goal, won a penalty which was converted by Fulham's Alexander Mitrovic. So that was the 2-all draw. Russia could only draw 0-0 with Hungary. Bulgaria losing at home to Wales. Johnny Williams scoring the only goal, while Finland beat the Republic of Ireland 1-0. Quite an impressive result for the Finns, this one. Uh, the third tier saw North Macedonia draw 1-all with Georgia. Estonia could draw 1-all with Armenia. Meanwhile, there's only one Armenian player I know, Hendrik Mkhitaryan, plays for Roma, but he was clearly not among the goals. And also, Moldova lost at home to Slovenia. That's a slightly more successful nation in sports. Slovenia winning 4-0. In fact, Slovenia also doing very well in cycling recently. Two Slovenians finishing first and second in the Tour de France. Greece, meanwhile, could only draw 0-0 with tiny Kosovo. Right, Anrik Nortje, the South African fast bowler who plays for the Delhi Capitals, he says he had no idea he bowled the fastest ball in this year's IPL, which measured 156.2 kilometers per hour. The coach of the Mumbai Indians, Mahela Jayawardene, Sri Lankan batting legend, he says that he's happy with his team's progress and that his team has been consistent so far. Meanwhile, the organizers for the Australian Open for next year, they feel that the quarantine measures should be relaxed a bit. Biosecure bubble ought to be enough. Beyond that, we don't need to have much of strictness. Right, so I'm pretty much done. Please do not miss my next session, which starts, I think, in an hour's time. Yes, about an hour and 15 minutes away from now. At 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, I am doing the book review session, and this week I'll be doing the Guns, Germs, and Steel, written by Jared Diamond. A book written about 15 years back, and I read it back then, but still extremely relevant even today. Its findings. So there will be a lot to speak on that. It's actually not a book review; it's a book analysis. I should change my the name of the classes, because it's not that I give you views. It's good or bad. I actually discuss chapter wise and concepts. Right. So I'm basically done with the session. I'll keep it open for a few minutes in case you guys have any doubts. Do ask me. This is my code at the bottom. Please make liberal use of it. जब भी मन करे AD09 इसको आप यूज करेंगे तो आपको सीधा 10% ऑफ मिलेगा. And please like, share, and subscribe to the sessions. Do comment as well. I'm just waiting for your comments now. Keeping it open. You guys let me know whatever, if you, in case you have any doubts from today's session or anything otherwise as well. Cat is not far away, so guys, time to get really serious now. Although I don't want you to spoil your festive season either for that. So don't do a lot of last moment studies, but please do the concepts, the things you're good at, be really good at those. I'm here itself. Just ask me the doubts. The South African fast bowler who plays for the Delhi Capitals, he says he had no idea its findings. there will be a lot to speak on that. It's actually not a book review; it's a book analysis. I should change my the name of the classes, because it's not that I give you views, good or bad. I actually discuss chapter wise and concepts. Right. So I'm basically done with the session. I'll keep. Right. I think we can now wrap it up. Thank you so much, guys. Take care for the rest of the day. We have another session at 5 p.m. So please do not miss that. Thank you.